Hello, my name is Alex, and this is for my uh, podcast for my group project. So, the COVID 19 pandemic has hurt travel like never before. People are too scared to leave their houses, governments are banning and restricting people. So, how can we travel with the virus going around that leads and has many people in fear? Well, it's simple. There's a lot of information out there, and I'm going to give it to you. So, the first thing I want to really talk about is how to safely travel throughout the United States. As many of us are Americans, we only travel in the United States. I think that this really applies towards us. The United States has recently opened up, and what the CDC or the Center of Disease Control is talking about is that if you are fully vaccinated, then you don't have to wear a mask when you go out in public, but they do recommend that you wear a mask in very crowded places. While if you are unvaccinated, they recommend that you wear a mask all the time and populated or very unpopulated places. Obviously, not by yourself. It's totally different. And so, as long as you're vaccinated, they think that you will be fine in places, and that the vaccine is good and strong enough to keep you safe. But it also does vary from places that you go. Different states throughout the United States have different COVID guidelines. For example, in New York City, to go see a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden or MSG, you need to be fully vaccinated. They check COVID passports, and that's something that they do there. So you have to have proof of vaccination before you can go in there. While in Texas, if you want to go see the Rockets play at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas, you don't need to have a vaccination passport. You can literally just show up and walk in, mask, no mask. It's completely up to you. So before you travel to a different state for an event or something like that, you should definitely check and see what the local city and state guidelines are for uh, for going to events and stuff like that, for traveling with COVID uh, still in effect, still in the news, still spreading rapidly through the variants. It's always something that you should pay close attention to, because the federal government's one thing, but then the local government and the state government is something else. And if depending on the politics, they could agree or completely disagree. So I think that's always something to pay really close attention to. And now, for people wanting to travel from the United States to Europe or South America or something like that, how to travel internationally. The Mayo Clinic recently recommended that Americans only travel to countries that have high vaccination rates, like France or Britain, not like Mongolia or Russia. Countries that have lower vaccination rates put travelers at risk. Um, Also, Americans must remember that when we travel to the country, we follow the other country's rules and laws. A lot of countries have very strict rules regarding COVID 19, like France, which require all persons out in public spaces to be able to present their COVID vaccination card at any time by the authorities, or else they can be fined, imprisoned, or barred from the country for life. So that's something to pay close attention to. And also, recently, the European Union, has banned all unvaccinated Americans from being able to travel into Europe. So the only way you can travel into Europe as an American is if you are vaccinated and must show proof of that before entering the country, as they will not let you in. So that's new, but they will allow unvaccinated people from, let's say, Canada. So that's something interesting. So that's why it's very important to also pay attention to the countries that you're traveling into and see what they are and what their rules are regarding COVID 19, because it is very different than Americans' rules. And just because you're from America doesn't mean that your rules apply over there and overseas. So that's always something to pay attention to. And my third point is discussing airlines' rules for traveling throughout the pandemic. So the airline we're going to talk about is United Airlines, and the reason I picked them is that they're one of the most popular airlines throughout the United States. They have flights all over the world, all across the United States, and they're always traveling. Um, and what United does is they require a mask worn at all times throughout the flight. So if you are traveling on an airline, like United Airlines, you have to wear a face mask on the entire flight. You cannot take it off unless you're eating or drinking. That is one of their rules. They also have HEPA air filters on all the planes, which cycle out the air so that not everybody's breathing in the same air. Many people think it's like a box. Everybody's breathing in the same air. It's not. And the airline's also a private company. They have their own rules. They're following federal rules from the FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration, and the Department of Transportation, and they are also following their rules, ensuring that all their passengers are safe. And if you refuse to wear a mask on the flight, they will kick you off, ban you from flights, and they've done that. The major airlines in the United States have done over 1,574 people so far in the 2021 calendar year, and it's not even over yet. So it's very important to also pay attention to what private companies' rules are regarding travel, so you have to listen to that too as well. So in conclusion, everybody wants to travel, everybody wants to get out of quarantine after being stuck in a house, see the world, but it's also important to understand each state, each country, each private company has its own rules. So rules in regarding, what their policies are regarding COVID. If you would like to travel with them or through them or in their state or in them. Um, and so it's always important to remember that they're their own, and if you want to go, then you have to follow them. If you want to fly from Texas, which has very low COVID rules, on a private company like United Airlines, you're going to have to follow United's mask policy, even though Texas doesn't have one. And if you're from Texas flying that, then you're going to go to New York, in which they have very strict policies. You're going to have to follow New York strict policies if you want to go in there, if you want to go to France, or wherever you want to go. It's important to realize that every place has their own rules and policies, and the most important thing is just to look up and see what they have for their policies in advance, so that way you can be safe and efficient when traveling with them. Everybody should be able to travel, just do it safely. That will conclude the presentation. Thank you.